You found yourself on another edition of Let 'em Know Kings in a 313. And on today's episode, well, I was right. Golden State responded with a big win over the Detroit Pistons. And the Sacramento Kings went from Pacific Division champions to a new low. And that new low was an embarrassing sweep by the Houston Rockets. I'm going to break all that down on today's edition of Let 'em Know Kings in a 313. I'm going to try to stay calm. Let's go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in the place to be, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Pistons from the D. This is Let 'em Know Kings in the 3-1-3. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another edition of Let 'em Know Kings in a 313, your Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, and Sacramento Kings post-game reaction podcast. And I'm your host, Skylar Weisberg. Thank you so much for tuning into today's program. You can find this show, which is absolutely free and available on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on the platforms if you can please. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'em Know Kings in a 313 a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. It is a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate each and every single one of you checking in. And oh, by the way, please go to anchor.fm/CLESK313, the official website of the Let 'em Know Kings in the 313 podcast. Just a little bit of a disclaimer here before we get started on the show. I am recording this today on Tuesday, so by the time this episode drops, it would be Wednesday. So I'm giving this show a little day late. I'm a little late as far as the day goes on this show because it was election day today on a Tuesday. So by the time this episode drops, it already happened, and I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to let your voices be heard, and I hope that everybody went out there and voted. Myself, I'm not that big as far as politics, and sometimes some people in my folks are getting a little bit political, but that is besides the point, and that's not really the point of this podcast, but I just wanted to point it out very quickly. But the thing is, I really hope that you guys went out there. I really hope that you let your voices heard, and I hope you went out there and voted for those, for those of my listeners that are in the United States. Now that that's out the way, in the words of Mike Brown, I'm about to lose my fucking top. I'm about to lose my fucking top because of how the Sacramento Kings played like shit. For the second straight game, they get outplayed, outcoached, simply dominated by the Houston Rockets, 122-97. The first game, it was 107-89. This game, it was 122-97 in favor of Houston. On Saturday, I said, all right, it was only one game. De'Aaron Fox was going to be injured. We were going to have another game against the same Houston Rockets on Monday, and I was hoping that we would bounce back. I was thinking that way after the first game. I was like, all right, we're going to bounce back on Monday. Let's move on. Somebody tell me, what the fuck is the difference now? What's the problem now? The problem is De'Aaron Fox didn't play for the second straight game in Houston. He wanted to make sure that his ankle was 100%. I get it. You don't need to rush your superstar back. But here's the thing. I really wish he came back because our offense, again, is bullshit. Bullshit. I have never seen a Sacramento Kings team look defeated and depleted as what I'm seeing right now. I can't even mumble my words because I can't even think straight. I can't. First of all credit to Houston. All credit to the Houston Rockets. They did a better job at preparing for this game than the Sacramento Kings ever did. I think we as Sacramento fans, to be honest, overlooked Houston. Overlooked. I think we underestimated Houston. We thought that Houston was going to be an easy win. We thought that it would be an easy set of games where we could be 4-2 and we could just move on to Portland. No, you played a trap game and look what fucking happened. You got humbled by Houston not once, but twice. Alfred Şengün said it best. The Houston Rockets were playing like animals. And they were animals, and they were feasting on the worst offense in the NBA right now. I'm sorry to tell everybody the truth, but the Sacramento Kings are no longer the number one offense in the NBA. No longer. Where was the offense that was so electric last year, huh? Where was the offense that lit up the NBA world? Huh? Because clearly there's a team in Indiana, a team named the Indiana Pacers, that dropped 150 on the San Antonio Spurs. You could argue they could drop 160. There's two offenses from Monday's games that were better than Sacramento. Philadelphia, who dropped 146, and Indiana, who dropped 152. And clearly, Indiana is the number one team in the NBA as far as offense and scoring, if I'm not mistaken. But Sacramento, bro, for the second straight fucking time, nobody showed up. The starters played soft. Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, y'all were decent. Kevin Huerter, I love the fact that you got your shot back. You finally got some shots. I really wish that you were consistent with it, but that's beside the point. Keegan Murray, you're going to have your slumps, but just keep on shooting. But Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell, and Domantas Sabonis especially, what the flying fuck? What are you doing? Like, it's one thing to get dominated one time against Houston because you expected to bounce back, right? You expected to bounce back now knowing the personnel of the Houston Rockets, now knowing of how they play, you are guaranteed to bounce back on Monday, right? Wrong. The Houston Rockets outcoached, outplayed, and dominated the Sacramento Kings from the fucking jump. From the fucking jump. Ime Udoka said it best. I loved our aggressiveness at the start. They came out with some more physicality and tried to increase their pressure. And we handled it well and kind of threw it back at them. Loved everything we did, coming out and taking the fight, taking the initial hit, and responding well. The Sacramento Kings started out really strong. And that was the one lone positive. The one lone positive that I can take from this game is the strong start by the Sacramento Kings. More specifically, the Sacramento Kings on offense. We started out really well. We punched them in the mouth. But the difference is Houston responded and we didn't. Houston responded well. And all credit to the Houston Rockets. And all credit especially to the defense of the Houston Rockets. They were limiting dribble penetration all night long. And our offense was just lethargic. To be honest with you, our offense was generic. No action, no screening, no communication. Just nothing. It was just dribble, and then chuck up a three, and you better hope and pray that it goes in. Houston was running a more complete offense than Sacramento these last two games, and it shows. It shows. And even Mike Brown gave Houston credit. And I love Mike Brown. He's the type of coach that I want to play for. He's the type of coach that is humble, victory or defeat. He said, give Houston credit. They kicked our behind, starting with me. They kicked my behind and on down the line. They came to play tonight. They punched us in the mouth and we did not respond. And it was evident. The Kings are now 0-3 without their superstar De'Aaron Fox. Now, against the Warriors at Golden State, Sacramento had a chance to win the game. They had a chance to win the game, but unfortunately, Klay Thompson does what Klay Thompson always does, break the hearts of the Sacramento Kings. Honestly, I gotta give credit to the Golden State Warriors. Honestly, because the Golden State Warriors have broken the Sacramento Kings mentally and psychologically, and it shows. It shows. Mike Brown said that the sense of urgency is there. We're facing some adversity, and I'm intrigued to see how we handled it. I'm intrigued too, Mike Brown, because nobody besides Ellis came to play for Sacramento. Nobody wearing a black and purple uniform came to play. You know who came to play? Alfred Şengün, who clears Domantas Sabonis. Jabari Smith Jr., better than Keegan Murray, clears him. Fred VanVleet, better than Davion Mitchell, who did absolutely nothing. Harrison Barnes did a whole lot of nothing too. Every single member of the Kings starting lineup looked lethargic and fucking ass. And I am really, really sick and tired of recording these episodes where I gotta go on a rant because the Sacramento Kings played like bullshit. Played like absolute garbage against a team that you should have won. A team that you should have split. If you split against Houston, maybe I wouldn't be as mad right now. But no. You didn't respect the game. You didn't respect Houston. You overlooked them. You assumed that it was going to be an easy win. You played a trap game, and Ime Udoka gave the Sacramento Kings what they deserved. You deserve this. I am sorry to tell everybody the truth, but you deserve this. You drove me to the point where you might be not my NBA League Pass team. I gotta keep it real with you. The Pistons and the Kings are not my NBA League Pass teams this year. Cleveland is, but the Chicago Bulls are. The Chicago Bulls look better than the Sacramento Kings, and it showed tonight. It showed. Houston, all credit to you. Ime Udoka has got something special in Houston. If he wins the Coach of the Year over Mike Brown, he deserved it. I'm just so fucking disappointed about how Sacramento Kings played, man. Just no effort. No effort. On both ends of the floor, Sacramento got their ass kicked. And against Portland, if you don't come back, if you don't come out better at home, there's going to be a lot of boo birds at the Golden One Center. And I personally don't even blame any Sacramento Kings fan for booing the hell out of the Sacramento Kings because they deserve to be booed. But I'm going to get to that in just a second. The stats, 57% for the field for Houston, 44% for Sacramento. 14 threes, only 40 out of 40 attempts. The Kings are just too reliant on the three-point ball right now. I get that they like to shoot threes, but I think they become uncomfortable and complacent when the three-point shots are going to go down. Are not going down, I should say. You should watch how the Indiana Pacers played their offense. When the three-point shot wasn't falling, they kicked it out of mid-range and they went inside because of their screening action. Clearly, you need to watch how the Indiana Pacers played. Clearly, the Sacramento Kings need to take notes on how the Chicago Bulls played. And clearly, the Sacramento Kings should learn what the Philadelphia 76ers did. Because unlike the Sacramento Kings, the Bulls, Pacers, and 76ers were facing mediocre teams, and they took care of business. Utah is a decent team. I wouldn't call the Utah Jazz mediocre. They're a decent team, but that's beside the point. The free throw percentage, really telling. 77% for the free throw line for Houston, 55% for Sacramento. The rebounds, 39-34 in favor of Houston. Houston dominated on the steals, 4-2 on blocks, 15 turnovers for Sacramento, only to 11. Houston got whatever the hell they wanted in the paint, 50-38. I think the Kings were soft. The Kings were soft in this matchup against the Houston Rockets, and it showed. I mean, nobody came to play except Ellis. I'm only going to mention Ellis' name because he's the only guy that did really well, and I respect him for that. 15 points, 4 for 6 from three-point range, 2 rebounds, assists, and a steal, and a plus 10. He was the only Sacramento King that showed me that he wanted to play, that showed me that this game meant to him. And unfortunately, for the rest of the team, they didn't match his energy. They didn't match his heart. They didn't match the competitive spirit. They didn't match the intensity that the Houston Rockets did for most of this game. Şengün, like I said, he clears Domantas Sabonis, and it's not even close. 17 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds tonight. Green, 23 points with 2 rebounds and 2 assists. Dylan Brooks, he came back down to earth with 9 points, but he impacted the game with 6 rebounds and an assist. Jabari Smith Jr., he did really well with 13 points, 3 for 5 from three-point range with 4 rebounds. And Fred VanVleet was doing his thing with 11 points, 3 for 5 from 3, including a buzzer beater at the half, which I knew it was going in. Again, all credit to the Houston Rockets. They dominated and broken down the Sacramento Kings. Can they get their shit together and bounce back against the Trailblazers tonight at home? I hope. I hope they do. But, again, this Kings team is facing adversity right now. Will they battle through it? I think they have a talented team that will fight through it. The talent is there, but without De'Aaron Fox, there's no fucking leader. No fucking leader on both ends of the floor. So if I'm Sacramento, I better wake up and wake up real quick, because now for the Kings, they got a target on their back. Let's see how they respond against the Trailblazers. Hopefully in a win, because they need a confidence booster to get right back on track. When we come back on Let Them Know Kings at a 3-1-3, yes, the Detroit Pistons have lost another game to the Golden State Warriors, but their effort was way better than the night before against Phoenix. I'm going to talk about that when we come back on Let Them Know Kings in the 3-1-3. We're back on Let Them Know Kings at a 3-1-3, and unfortunately, just like the Sacramento Kings, there was another team that lost on Tuesday night, and that was the Detroit Pistons. But I gotta give the Detroit Pistons a whole lot of credit. Yes, they're 2-6. Yes, they lost their fifth straight game, but for the most part, their effort and their toughness were much better than the game against Phoenix. Yes, it was 120-109, the final score, but I gotta give credit to the Detroit Pistons, because the Pistons, for the most part, for most of this game, actually, the Pistons responded and played really, really well. Unfortunately for Detroit, and maybe for the rest of the league, Steph Curry took over. And when Steph Curry takes over, you know what happens. He dropped 34 points as the Golden State Warriors beat the Detroit Pistons by a final score of 120-109. There were a whole lot of positives in this game. There was a whole lot of positives for Detroit. Isaiah Stewart did really well in this game. Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham had each 21 points. Killian Hayes had his best game of the year. He had his best game of the year. I wish he was consistent. I wish he was consistent. But, this was a breakout performance for Killian Hayes, and it was a confidence booster for Killian Hayes, which he desperately needed. Stanley Umade, whatever the hell his name is, he had a career-high 15 points for the Pistons. And the crazy thing is, the Pistons were really, really shorthanded going into this game. They were missing Isaiah Livers, Monte Morris, Joe Harris, Jalen Duren, and I don't even remember who the other two were, but Jalen Duren's missing from this game due to injury really killed the Pistons in this game. More specifically, the rebounding issues were a big point of emphasis in this game. They had an 8-1 average in offensive rebounds, leading 15-2 edge in second chance points when they built a 56-48 lead when they're talking about the Golden State Warriors. Overall, they had 17 offensive rebounds, Golden State has, and they had 26 second chance points, Golden State. Detroit only crashed the board 7 times on the offensive glass, and they only had 10 second chance points. As far as the rebounding goes for Golden State, Steve Kerr said, and I quote, "That's been a point of emphasis for this year. We're really trying to attack the offensive glass. Tonight was a very successful night in that regard. We were 12 for 18 on second chance shots, and we held them to 6 attempts. That's probably the difference in the game, and it was the big difference in this game. Sure, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevon Looney, Draymond Green did their thing for the Golden State Warriors, and as I mentioned before, Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham, for the most part, did their thing for Detroit. Umade had a breakout game, and Isaiah Stewart did really well, knocking down a couple of threes. But if you don't box out, if you don't crash the offensive glass, and you don't get an opportunity to maybe either get a bucket on a second chance point or maybe set up the offense, it's going to kill the Detroit Pistons. And unfortunately for Detroit, the rebounding and the second chance edge on the Golden State Warriors really killed the Detroit Pistons as a whole tonight. As far as the rebounding and the second chance points, as far as the Pistons' perspective, Monty Williams said that was pretty much the game. We held them to 29% on their threes, and they only had 21 free throws. If you're playing Golden State, you take that. But they took advantage of all of those extra opportunities. The main difference was the Detroit Pistons, to me, did not have a sense of urgency on rebounding, boxing out, and limiting second chance points. The Cavaliers did a really good job at that when they were playing the Golden State Warriors the night before, of grabbing second chance points. Now look, I'm not saying that the Detroit Pistons and the team in general, I'm not saying all hope is lost. Despite the fact that we are 2-6, yes, we lost 5 straight games. But what I love about the Pistons is they are competitive. They are a team that's not going to go down without a fight. And for the most part, we fought our butts off. We fought our butts off against a really good Golden State Warriors team. And for the most part, I thought Detroit was going to prove me wrong and win this game. They had 26 points in the first quarter, Detroit, 22 in the second quarter, 34 points in the third quarter to get themselves right back in it. But unfortunately, Golden State outscored Detroit 37-27 in the final quarter. And that was ultimately the main difference in this game. But I gotta give Detroit credit. I got to give the Pistons credit because I thought they responded really, really well. Their effort was way better than the other night against Phoenix. But if you're going to be a team like Milwaukee, who Detroit got next, and they might be in trouble. They might be in trouble because if you are a follower of the Milwaukee Bucks, you got to watch 2 players. You gotta watch Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak, and Damian Lillard. If the Pistons can contain them, we might pull off the upset of the season. But if Giannis and Damian Lillard go off, which I expect them to, the Pistons are going to be in a whole lot of trouble. But this is something to build on if you are the Pistons. You fought hard against a great team like Golden State, but you need to clean up the point of emphasis for them on rebounding, boxing out, and creating more second chance opportunities and not giving up second chance points. I think the Pistons need a bigger point of emphasis on defense because we don't have a big that can rebound and start a fast break or get second chance opportunities. I mean, I respect and admire Isaiah Stewart, but my God, Stu cannot be the only big on the floor, right? If Jalen Duren played in this game, I think the Pistons would be in a much better place against a team like Golden State. But now that he was out, I hope that Jalen Duren plays against Milwaukee, because if he doesn't, then we might be in for another long night. I think Milwaukee might win, but the Pistons prove me wrong as far as like the effort goes. I got to give credit to that, but Golden State is an elite team. They look like champions for a reason. They are really good. And credit to the Pistons. They fought their butts off tonight. 47% for both teams. The shooting percentage was pretty even. Field goal percentage, the 3-point percentage, all credit to the Pistons. 43% from three compared to 29% from three, like Monty Williams just said. The free throw percentage, outstanding. 95% compared to 76 for the Golden State Warriors. The rebounds, 44-39 in favor of Golden State. 17 of them were on the offensive end, and then everybody else besides the turnovers, all in favor of Golden State, even though the steals were pretty even in 8 and 8. The fouls, 20-14, but for the most part, I think they were really good fouls for the most part in this game, but the points of the paint, another big point of emphasis there. 52 points for the Golden State Warriors compared to only 32 for the Detroit Pistons. And as far as who stood out for this game, Steph Curry, well, he does Steph Curry things. 34 points, 7 of 17 from three-point range, 4 assists and 2 rebounds. Klay Thompson, 17 points. He had a really good game, but although he was 1 for 8 from the three-point line, which is unlike Klay Thompson. I know Klay Thompson all too well. He doesn't go 1 for 8 from three-point range every darn night. But for the most part, Klay Thompson did well, not just impacting the game in many different ways. Kevon Looney dropped 10 points. He only grabbed 6 rebounds and 1 assist, and that's not like him. That's not like him. I think we did a really good job of limiting him. Chris Paul did really well off the bench. 17 points, 2 for 3 from three-point range with 5 rebounds and 6 assists. And by the way, this is completely beside the point, but I think the Golden State Warriors won the trade in trading Chris Paul to the Washington Wizards off the Phoenix Suns, or to the Golden State Warriors, and Jordan Poole. I don't know what you're doing in Washington, but you're struggling, my guy. You are struggling big time, bro. As far as the Detroit Pistons, Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham combined for 42 points despite the loss. Cade finished with 21, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 turnovers. But Killian Hayes was the better player than Cade Cunningham. 21 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, no turnovers. He also had a steal and a block. Asar Thompson, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, and 2 assists. Umade had a career-high game off the bench with 15 points, 4 for 5 from three-point range with 3 rebounds. And Isaiah Stewart, Big Stu, 17 points, 3 for 5 from three-point range with 11 rebounds and 4 assists. It was an all-around good effort. Good effort for the Pistons, something to build on, a positive game that they could build on against Milwaukee. But if you don't have Jalen Duren, you're going to have to rebound as a team against the Bucks. Because if you let Giannis Antetokounmpo crash the boards, it's going to be a long night for Detroit. But even though the Pistons are 2-6, they had a game where they could build on. And that is a positive that I can take ache to the damn bank every day of the week and twice on Sunday from any event. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'em Know Kings in the 313. You can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Pandora, Spotify, and wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on the platforms, turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'em Know Kings in the 313 a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. I'm Skylar Weisberg. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you right back here for another episode of Let 'em Know Kings in the 313.